Welcome to the Lighthouse Financial Advisors Money Over 50 podcast with Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue. This information is general in nature and does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Therefore, you should consider whether the information is appropriate for you and your personal circumstances. If you require personal advice, please contact Lighthouse Financial Advisors. Here are your hosts, Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue.
Welcome to Money Over 50. Today's topic is when to sack the coach. Dallas, your topic?
Thanks, Michael. Yes, obviously, in place of coach, in this case, we would say financial advisor. So we've talked about this a lot, and it's a part of how we see our role is as a financial coach. There's a lot of, it's a bit of a buzzword in our industry now to refer to yourself as a financial coach, but it is, I guess, a part of the dynamic, or a good analogy to use sometimes. So, and we were discussing this morning.
I like the, sorry to butt in, I like the analogy because each one of our clients, as they approach retirement, has to train very hard. So oftentimes they're experts in their own field, most often. A couple, they come to see us for the first time. They're earning the highest salaries they've ever earned. And that's a little bit akin to the talent of a sporting team. So you've got a talented sporting team, but that sporting team won't get anywhere unless they put the hard work in. So we insist that our clients put hard work in, and we do good work.
And it is similar to that coaching role in that we can't do that work for them.
No.
If that makes sense. So that's, again, is the analogy there is that we can't get up and go to work for them every day and earn that money.
No.
We can only help them channel that in the most effective way.
That's right.
It is not a bad analogy. I actually thought you were going to butt in and go with your Roger Federer has a coach story that you've told 300 times in my life.
Actually, it's funny because I say it a lot, but you've mentioned it 3 times in the last couple of weeks. So you're now mentioning it more than I do.
It's because every time we talk about a coach, I can see your eyes light up because you get to go, did you know that Roger Federer has a coach? But yeah, we were having a coffee this morning and discussing the Cowboys this season and talking about how it's a hard gig being an NRL coach because, you know, if you lose your first 4 or 5 or 6 games, all of a sudden the knives are out. You know, all the headlines are, you know, sack the coach, and you know, and we were discussing about it that it's actually a tricky decision to make because you could make the argument either way, where you go, you lose your first 5 games. Well, are you just going to jump out and sack the coach? It may or may not be their fault. You know, who are you going to replace them with? It might not solve all the problems, but you also, you know, as we're debating, you can't just keep doing the same thing again and expecting different results. If you're not winning, then you've got to try something different. So, from the perspective of having a financial advisor, I think it's an interesting question because it's fairly similar in as much as you've got a financial advisor. It can be hard to know when are things working well or not well. When is that because of your financial advisor, and when is that just sort of the luck of the draw? And so that's sort of what I wanted to go through today is different examples of when we think it is, and isn't I guess suitable to sack the coach or change financial advisor, or when you can probably blame your financial advisor and when it's not appropriate. So the first one that we to discuss is, I guess, when shouldn't you sack the coach, or when shouldn't you blame your financial advisor? And so the first one that jumps out at me with this is that a lot of your work that your financial advisor, or the decisions that you make with your financial advisor, will be around how is your retirement savings invested in your superannuation, what asset classes you invested into there. So that decision, and we talk about this at great length, is that that's a trade-off that needs to be made. You know, more volatility, higher long-term returns, all that kind of thing. So if that's all been explained to you, it doesn't matter whether you've got the right investment strategy for you. There's nothing to stop in a year's time. You might have the right plan with the right financial advisor, and in a year's time your super balance might have dropped by 30%.
Yeah.
And so that's, I guess, the example that comes off the top of my head of when you shouldn't sack your financial advisor is if there's something like that is out of their control, they've warned you about the risks or the trade-offs that you have to make. They've said, look, this is going to be more volatile, and then the market drops. You can't really blame your financial advisor for that, because that's a part of their job, is to have those conversations with you. They can't control what that market does in the next year.
Yeah, look, and I look at that a little bit like it's really akin to losing one game in a season. Like even the best teams lose one or two games in a season. Usually, it's just because you're playing so many games.
That's
so
right.
if you're working towards your retirement, you're in retirement. Look, we know that with high growth markets, statistically somewhere between I think it's 1 in every 5 years is a negative year.
It's exactly the thing I was going to say there is that even if you're invested 100% in growth assets, there at least 1 year out of 5 on average that you will be your balance will be lower at the end of that year than it was at the start of the year, and that's just a normal part of things. Now, it's unlucky if that's the first year that you've gone and met with a financial advisor, and that just happens to be the 1 year out of 5 that the market drops.
That's right. Look, there's probably some language around this as well. So if they you mentioned before, Dallas, that if they've explained it, so if the financial advisor explained that this can happen, then certainly it's definitely not time to sack them at that point in time, because it's a naturally occurring event. Some things to be careful about, and it's probably hard to remember this, but if they use the word if we have a negative return, I would say that's very tricky language.
Very dangerous. Because
they should be using the word when we have a negative return, because it is inevitable. Just as it is a sporting team losing a game somewhere during a long season. A negative return is inevitable for most people.
That's right. And so that's I guess the main one that I can think of that. You meet with an advisor, and then a year later, when you would want to sack them but probably shouldn't, is something like that. The only other real example I can think of when you shouldn't sack your financial advisor is, and this happens quite a bit, I think, if your advisor is doing the right thing by you, is that if they're telling you something you don't want to hear, and that can be a bit of a subconscious one, is that if you are overspending. For example, you've said to your advisor that you want to retire in 5 years' time or 10 years' time or whenever. They've said that you need to put X amount into super every year. If you and you don't then do that, and they pull you up on it, you can't then go, I don't like this guy, I'm going to sack him, because it's like the coach making you do strength and conditioning and making you do some of those hard things that you don't want to do. So that's probably the other example that I can think of where you wouldn't sack that advisor. Whether you do it or don't do it, he's in most cases should only be telling you that out of your own interest.
Yes, and further to also the volatility thing, I would say when that volatility occurs, if your advisor says, hey, look, we've got a plan in place and we've got a strategy. Let's not change anything right now. That is reason to keep them. If they start to say, look, let's go to cash. Let's sell out now and appease you and go to cash.
So it's similar.
That is reason to sack them.
It is a similar thing, isn't it? Because you go, it's a lot of the time when there is volatility, what you will least want to hear is what a good advisor should be telling you. So when things are going gangbusters and you want to borrow more money to invest, or you want to, put all of your money into one economy or one company that you think is going to shoot the lights out, the advisor should be the one talking you out of that euphoric state. And by the same token, if the market is down, your advisor should be the one telling you not to panic when you most want to panic. So
that's right.
You're dead right of that's a good example of what your advisor tells you at those points in time probably doesn't feel good, and probably it isn't what you want to hear. The fact that you don't want to hear it means that it's actually more likely to be the right advice.
That's right.
So
when should you sack the coach?
This is on my
Dallas.
I'm pretty ruthless here with most advisors, so there's probably more of these reasons than a reason to keep them. But I think sometimes this is a bit more of a dangerous one, because it's easy to be happy enough with what your advisor's doing. So I've met with people before that have said, I've got a financial advisor, he manages my super, and so the phrase we use is, well, that guy's not a financial advisor, he's a money manager.
Money manager.
So he's not talking to you about what are your long-term objectives, what is it that you're actually looking to achieve. He's managing your superannuation. So that would be the first one, is that, and those sort of tie in together. If you haven't had any discussions with your advisor about what are your goals, so if you're listening to this, you're over 50, the big goal in everyone's mind is retirement.
Yes.
If you're not having discussions with your advisor about what are the goals, what are you actually looking to try and achieve, how much income do you need in retirement, and as you said, these should be fairly rigorous discussions. It shouldn't just be him asking a question and ticking a box. It should be your advisor pushing back on some. If there's anything that you say that it doesn't line up with how you sort of have been living, your advisor should be pushing back on that. So that should be their first role, is to try and find out what is it that's actually that you're trying to achieve, and then they should be working with you around are you on track to achieve those goals. So that's kind of the big one that jumps out of me is you should sack your advisor if there's been no discussion about what goals you're trying to achieve.
So that would be a money manager. So they're saying, you've got a pot of money, we'll move it over here, and we will, if you're here,
outperforming benchmark. We'll get a good return. We'll
get a good return. If you're here at Alpha, sack them straight away. Just on the grounds that they're how can I word this nicely?
The W word is what you're looking for.
Adding Alpha is again, look, it's a great racehorse name. Put that on the list, but. But if it comes out of the mouth, they're a salesperson, not a financial advisor.
And so there's a lot of different language that you hear around, and I guess where we talk about these things tying together. If someone says, I'm gonna get a good return, I guess my thoughts are to achieve what? Like, to what end are we trying to get this good return? Or are we going to outperforming a benchmark? Is the benchmark whether I run out of money in retirement or not? That's really the only benchmark that you need to be worried about.
Yes. So differentiating that is you have $500,000 between the two of you. You want to retire in 10 years' time. That's on track to be at $1 million. Look, it really needs to be at 1.6 million for you to be able to achieve what you want to achieve in retirement. So that is like an abbreviated version of the goals. And tracking to get there. I hope I haven't jumped the gun there.
No,
I'm not saying that. But like, if there's an absence of that conversation, and they're just saying, we'll get a good return on this $500,000 that you have, or this $400,000 that you have, and we'll add Alpha. Or best of breed is another one. If you hear best of breed, again,
we are a bespoke boutique.
Bespoke. Let's get all these terminology out here. If you hear bespoke, just run. Just run.
You're right. There's a lot of these things of if we continue on, the language that advisors use that scares me is your advisor should be more worried about you than about them. So anytime your advisor goes, we are this, we are that, we're bespoke, we're a boutique investment firm that adds alpha and we outperform benchmarks through best of breeds. Nowhere in that has it been, hey, you're the client, you're the one paying fees here. What is it that you actually want to try and achieve? What is it that's important to you? What do you actually need to be, where do you need to be getting to? And what do we need to do to make that happen? You notice none of that language is around, hey, we're the best at actually getting out of our clients what's important to them and making sure they stay on track and all that. It's all about the advisor.
That's right. So what's second on the list for reasons that you should sack the coach?
So it sort of ties in a bit with that, is that the way, and this is sort of counterintuitive, but if they don't talk to you about trade-offs that you'll have to make, things that you have to give up, or pain that you have to go through. So we just spoke about this in our last podcast about you can't shift, you can't get rid of risk. You can only shift it. The same thing in every aspect of our life, we know that there are trade-offs that need to be made, and there are decisions that need to be made about that, and there's no free lunch. So if your advisor tells you that you can magically achieve all of your wildest dreams, and that there's no trade-off that needs to be made. There's no pain that you have to go through. Nothing you have to give up.
Yep.
That's a scary thing.
Look, it's a little bit. Imagine imagine being unfit and overweight, and walking into a personal trainer.
Yes.
And for them to say, "Look, we've got this magic bullet here.
Yeah.
You don't have to do any hard work. You don't have to give up anything on your diet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what you want to hear.
Yeah.
But
right.
it's bearing your head in the sand.
Yeah.
You don't have to change your diet. You don't have to change your nutrition.
Yeah.
You don't have to train hard.
Yep.
We'll just walk around the block 3 times a week.
Yep.
It's just not going to achieve the results that you need. So,
Yep.
look, I can't think of anyone that's come to me 10 years out from their retirement where I've said, hey, there's nothing that you need to give up in your weekly budget or fortnightly budget. Like every single person has required to be able to put some of the disposable income into their retirement savings on a consistent basis for the last 260 paychecks that they receive over the last 10 years of their working life. So, and again, just like having a talented sporting team, look, they are not going to win the grand final without becoming physically fit. So actually going through a little bit of pain. Are the rewards worth it? Absolutely.
And that's, I guess, so there's a few different ones when we talk about trade-offs and pain that you have to go through. You know, the same thing, like we said in talking about market returns that haven't been explained, is that if your advisor is talking to you about, we can get you this return, we can get really high returns with no volatility. Again, they're not being honest about the pain or the trade-offs that you need to make at that point in time. That's a big part of, like you said, our role is that there's everywhere you turn, you have to take on some risk and you have to take on some pain, and that's no different to how much you spend every week or every fortnight, how much you save for retirement, and how you invest your retirement savings. Is that there are decisions that need to be made there, and there is going to be, some of them are going to be better in some ways and worse in others, but if your advisor is telling you that no, there's no pain, you can have the baby without having the pain, then that's a big concern for me.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Third on the list, Dallas, of reasons you should sack the coach.
Well, I think
your advisor.
This is sort of, I guess it's a reason. It's a bit of a separate topic again. Is around if you have no trust in your advisor. I think and this is a bit more of a fuzzy one where we've just jokingly talked about different phrases that advisors use that can cause you to run the other way, but this is more that intuition of you walk in, you meet with them, and there's just some nagging thing in the back of your mind where you go, I don't know whether this bloke really is acting in my best interests, or I don't know if I really trust him or if I believe him, or I just don't like him. There's something about him that just creeps me out a bit, or I just don't really understand what he's talking about, or any of those sorts of things. So I think in our modern world, we push back on a lot of our intuition that we really need to trust. And this is not to say that your advisor's talking about things that you don't want to hear about. You need to give some money up. You need to make these trade-off decisions. That obviously makes you uncomfortable, but you can at least put your finger on why that's making you uncomfortable. The big one I'm talking about here is that a good advisor-client relationship is like all relationships. It's built on trust. And again, going back to that coaching analogy, you can have the best coach in the world with the best athletes in the world. They're not going to work well together if those athletes don't believe that the coach knows what he's talking about and doesn't believe that he wants what's best for them.
That's right.
That's probably the last one that I would say when you should sack the coach is if you either don't have trust in them or if you've lost trust in them.
Yeah.
And you've used a great analogy here with percentages of the finding the right advisor for you.
Yeah. So basically, my analogy is that if let's assume I'm 100% the best advisor.
We won't even get into who's the best advisor in Australia because we argue about that at length. But
if someone's only going to trust me 80%, the absence of trust is no trust.
Yes.
I believe.
Yes.
So if you flip that around, if someone else was an 80%
as good advisor,
but someone was going to trust them 100%, that would be a better working relationship.
Yeah.
because it requires trust is a two-way street between the advisor and the client. And look, I think it's one of the most important things that the client 100% trusts the advisor. So a strategy that was 80% as good, and but received 100% trust and buy-in by the client would be better than flipping that around and having a strategy that was 100%.
Yes.
With only 80% buy-in.
And I think this ties into, I guess, how we see the role of an advisor is, you meet with a client, say in our case, we meet with our clients every 6 months. Many of those meetings, like there's always things that you're working on, but what you find is that there are a few times when people are under the most pressure and they're most tempted to make a mistake and they're going to ruin themselves financially. That's when the value of that advisor really comes to the fore. And so,
absolutely,
as we just said, if you don't have that trust in your advisor to give you the right advice, the time when you're not going to listen to them or you're not going to take their advice is going to be at the time when you most need to.
It's going to be the worst possible time. Yeah, because it's easy to listen while things are going well.
Yep.
But you hit that mid-season slump, lose a couple of games in a row.
Yes. And
it's the trust that actually to continue on with the strategy and the buy-in that gets you through that. If there is any absence of trust, look, that's the worst possible time for that to come up, because it will come up at that stage at the worst possible time. You'll make the wrong decision.
And that's, I guess, a part of, I guess, how I'd wrap the whole thing up is that there isn't. It's a bit like what's the best investment or what's the best, this or that. It's really about what's right for you as well. There are, as we've discussed, I'm the best financial planner in Australia, but there are some clients out there that we're just not the right fit for each other from a personality type point of view, or how we see the world, or our values, or what we think is most important. We're just not going to gel in how we see the world. So for those people, I'm sure there's an advisor out there that sees the world in the same way, that has the same value system as them, all those sorts of things. That's a very important part of the dynamic of that relationship, is that it's not about us sitting here going, you should sack this advisor, keep that advisor. It's really a decision for you to make as a client, is to go, now that we've talked about this, I know what I should sort of roughly be looking for, and I know what I should be running away from.
Yes.
Then it's really a matter of you when you meet with someone, as in any sort of relationship, there will be either an instinctive, I think, trust, or there will be an instinctive revulsion, and you'll want to run the other way.
That's right.
And that's, I think, something that if you don't listen to that intuition at that point in time, you're going to listen to it at a time 5 years down the road when you most need to heed the advice of that person.
That's right.
So if you're going to, I guess, think about all these things, but also trust your instinct a little bit there in terms of who that person is and who you are going to trust, because it's a huge decision. You know what I mean? As we said, it's for most people, it's your life savings. It's whether you're going to run out of money in retirement or not. This is the person that's either going to get you through your retirement without running out, or not. So you really need to look at this as, is this person the right fit for me? The way that we talk about it is that there needs to be, it's always good when you like and enjoy and can have a laugh with your advisor and your clients, but at the very minimum there needs to be a healthy level of respect both ways.
Yes.
And that's, I think, the respect and trust is probably the big one that I'd say there, is that's in wrapping up the most important thing of it all, is not just for your advisor to have the technical knowledge and to ask the right questions and say the right things, but you have to trust that they have your best interests at heart.
Absolutely. One more to add just before we wrap up. So this isn't necessarily a reason to sack the coach or the financial advisor, but it's a reason to never walk through the door in the first place. Pie charts. So if on the front page of their website there's a distinguished couple in their 40s or 50s or 60s, and there's an advisor with a suit and a rack of white teeth, pointing to a colour pie chart to the couple,
and he's got his head tipped slightly on the side, and he's smiling, and and
that would be for me a symptom of not walking through the door in the first place. If they think that's what's important, and that's what financial planning is and financial advice is, that would be a reason.
I love to see that. I'm thinking, I've never looked at a pie chart in my life and had the smile on my face that most of the people in these stock photos do. I think always looking at it going, this is the best pie chart ever.
I think pie charts, to have any sense of meaning, need to be sized. So if we're talking about the retirement savings balance that you need, that should be a dinner plate. And so it's meaningless to me if I'm looking at a pie chart. If it's as tiny as a teacup, then it may then have some meaning, because I know, okay, well, I'm at teacup stage now. I need to get the dinner plate. But the pie chart, the way it's presented, has absolutely no meaning. No, it could be.
Isn't it funny that this is, the weird things that financials think about? Pie charts are the lowest form of chart. A line chart, a bar chart, any of these other charts, they're way more meaningful for people when talking about their retirement savings. Anytime there's a pie chart, I think that's actually not a bad little rule of thumb. There are a few that we've rattled through there, and we've gotten very deep and meaningful with trusting your advisor. But a pie chart's a good one. Anywhere on the website, you see a pie chart. Anytime your advisor says, "This is the pie chart showing something," be very hesitant. It's the lowest form of chart. I agree with you completely.
So, a good and jovial place to wrap up. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Money Over 50 podcast with Lighthouse Financial Advisors. We look forward to catching up again soon.